Hello, welcome to a new video of the WorkWithPlus course. In the previous video, we saw how to make massive changes from the interface of several screens based on a template. Now we will see how to add code in bulk. Suppose we are asked that on all transaction screens, the mode in which the transaction is located appears in the browser title. That is, if we are inserting, modifying, or deleting records. For this, we can add the following code to the start event of the bank transaction. We save it, and in this way, the status of said transaction will be seen in the browser title. But what if we need it for all objects? For this, we go to the transaction template. We go to our settings object. Click on the web icon. Transaction template. We click on this tab and we will go to Event and Subs. Let's right-click on this node to the event block. This block allows us to add code to any event or subroutine that is based on this template. We must add a name to our block. For example, we are going to put set caption. In the event or subname property, we will place the start event. We can write events that do not exist in this list, such as tablemain.click, and in code we will place the code that we want to add. For this, we will paste the code that we have added previously, but this time when pasting it here, it will be added in bulk for all the templates based on it. Another property that we will find in this node is behavior if block is not present on instance, which indicates if we want to add code en masse in all instances, or if it will be added only to those that have their hierarchical declaration in the node referring to this event block. With the add to instance by default property, indicate if we want this node to be added by default to the instances. Let's set these two properties that we mentioned earlier to true. In this case, it is include, and in the case of the following, it is true. And we will save the changes. It tells us that we need to do update instance so that this code goes to all the objects. We click like this, so the changes are applied massively. In the code property, we will insert the code that we have added previously. We click on the three dots and add the code. Make sure you don't add the code between the brackets, add the word web, and remove the keys. We give OK, and in the wrapping tag, we must place it as a web. In behavior, you have to leave it as do not include, and in added to instance by default, you have to leave it as true. If we go to the bank transaction to the patterns tab, we see that the set caption node appears in the instance. And if we go to the events, we can see that our code was inside the pattern tag. If we delete the node from the instance and save, we go to the events and see that the code has been deleted. Similar to events, we have rules. We can add rules on all transactions that meet a certain condition. For example, we see that in several transactions we have the create date attribute. For example, we have the attribute person create date on person, bank create date on bank, and account create date on account. We need to add a rule for each attribute that gives a value to the attribute every time a record is inserted. Since the attributes have different names, we need different rules for each transaction. For this, we have the automatic rules. We will go back to settings, to the transaction template, and we will right-click on the first node, Add Rules. Positioned in the new node that has been created, we will also right-click, Add Rule, and we will name it Set Date. And in rule, we will place the following code. We will explain this rule in a minute. The following two properties work as we have explained in the event blocks, and we will place them in do not include and in true. The next group of properties indicates when and for which properties our rules are added. For example, if we need the rule to run for each primary key in the transaction, we will set the isPrimaryKey property to true. But in this case, we need this rule to be executed for each attribute that has its name createDate. For that, we obtain the regular expression property that in this case we will place createDate in this property. WorkWithPlus will go attribute by attribute of the instances that have their declaration in the rule node corresponding to this rule. And for each attribute that matches these properties, it will grab the rule, replacing the @name tag with the name of the attribute. If we leave all the properties empty, the rule will be added for all the attributes of the transaction. Let's save and do update instance. We click the Yes button to perform the update instance. Now let's go to the Accounts transaction. The Patterns tab. We see the Rules node and the set date that we created, and if we go to the Rules tab, we see our created rule. We also have this same functionality, but for conditions. For example, if we need to add some condition to all list objects, we can do it using the selection template. Let's go to Settings again. But this time we don't go to the transaction template like we were doing before. Let's go to the next tab, which is Selection. And we right-click on the first node and add a condition. And this is added here, Automatic Conditions. This node allows us to add conditions just like we have added the rules. We saw all these functionalities at the level of a single template. That is to say, if with this functionality I have several objects with different templates, I need to include the same block of code in all the templates. For this, WorkWithPlus has in the Settings, in the Web Settings tab, the possibility of adding a code to all objects at the same time. In the Global Events and Subs node, we can right-click on the event block. Let's add an event for all objects, which meets the Global Events Blog Applist 2 section. In these properties, we can filter by template type. We invite you to subscribe to our channels so that you are always up to date of our upcoming videos. See you soon!